This is ESPN, the network for thoroughbred racing.
The 15th running of the Super Derby has attracted 3-year-olds from around the nation to Louisiana Downs. It's a well-traveled group that have had their racing passports stamped all over the nation. Concern will be competing on his 8th different track in a row, both in the United States and Canada. We first saw him show his late running style this spring, winning the Arkansas Derby. Candali returns to his home state after traveling to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, Ohio, Maryland, and Kentucky. But his last trip to the winner's circle was the Louisiana Derby at the New Orleans Fairgrounds in March. Meadow Flight, racing up and down the East Coast, started the year in Florida and then raced in Kentucky and New Jersey before winning his last start at the Pennsylvania Derby. But the Super Derby morning line favorite is Soul of the Matter. Burt Bacharach's graded stakes winner has arrived here from the West Coast. Today, these thoroughbred travelers lead a field of 8 that will have their passports stamped Louisiana Downs in the richest 3-year-old race of the fall, the $750,000 Super Derby. Racing to the Breeders' Cup, presented by Thrifty Car Rental. Welcome to Louisiana Downs for the feature race of their 132-day season of racing. It's the day they run the Super Derby. And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. For the 10th time, ESPN comes to Louisiana Downs for Super Derby Day. In the past, we have seen champions, multimillionaires, and of recent, long shots win this, the richest thoroughbred race in the Old South. Some breaking news on this race. Candali, winner of the Louisiana Derby at the Fairgrounds back in March, one of today's race favorites, has been scratched from the field with a bruised foot. Let's check the conditions now for Super Derby 15. It is Grade 1, the purse $750,000 guaranteed, $450,000 to the winner. A Derby tells you it's 3-year-olds. It's the classic American racing distance, 1.25 miles. All carry 126 pounds. Now to meet the Super Field, let's join my super analysts, Dave Johnson and Chelsea Candy.
Where does a Super Derby winner come from? Well, Charles, in the last 14 years, they've come from 10 different racetracks all across the country. Looks like we've got another summit meeting today.
Well, let's hope the Super Derby is more productive than the Superpowers meeting was in Washington last week, because there's a strong alliance between this race and the Breeders' Cup Classic. A dozen participants of the Super Derby have gone on to collect a major share of the Breeders' Cup Classic purse, and all 6 of our horses are nominated to the Breeders' Cup today.
Let's see who's here. We start with the morning line favorite, Soul of the Matter, Burt Bacharach. The owner is here. Why not? This horse seems to be over his foot problems. Morning line favorite, Kent DeSormo rides. The late closing concern is number 2 with Jerry Bailey. Scratch Candali. Second choice is Meadow Flight with Joe Bravo. Scratch My Magical Star. The local long shot hope, Kelly's Tartan with E.J. Paradin, double figures. And Ocean Crest, whose owner paid $20,000 to be supplemented, has Lafitte Pinkai Jr. to ride. And Pat Day will handle Bay Street Star, one of 4 Florida breds in the contest.
Well, there's a number of reasons these 3-year-olds are gathered today, and the Breeders' Cup, of course, is foremost among them. The consistent Meadow Flight could qualify himself today, and Soul of the Matter needs to confirm that promise that he showed earlier in the year to get a ticket to Churchill Downs.
Another key might be the distance, because this is the last time 3-year-olds will be against 3-year-olds at 1.25 miles. That should help a horse like Concern, who was beaten only a neck by Holy Bull in the 1.25 mile Travers. Also, the connections of Bay Street Star love this 10 furlongs.
And don't forget the purse, $750,000. Money talks, and Ocean Crest, listen, he's been racing on the turf, but he's switching back to the dirt for a chance at that kind of money.
For the last 4 years, though, there's been a run of long shots, and while there have been big prices on the tote boards, hot shot, big-name 3-year-olds have been favored and beaten. Horses like Peteski, Best Pal, Bien Bien, and Unbridled.
But, Dave, remember, in 14 runnings of the Super Derby, 7 times the favorites have won. That's 50%.
Chris?
Well, Dave, they say this is the richest thoroughbred 3-year-old race of the fall, but I tell you, it feels like midsummer here in the deep south. Temperatures in the high 80s, a high humidity, forecast 20% chance of rain. calm winds on a racetrack that's been getting rave reviews here, resurfaced by Dennis Moore at the start of this meet, is listed as fast. We're glad you joined us for a Super Derby here at Louisiana Downs. Racing to the Breeders' Cup. Today's coverage of the Super Derby at Louisiana Downs is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you, friends know when to say when. By Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet. Thrifty Car Rental, historically known for low rates. By Auto Tote, where the action is. And by Merck & Company, manufacturers of Ekvaland. The grandstands at Louisiana Downs here in Bossier City, the parish of Bossier, for our Racing to the Breeders' Cup stop here for Super Derby 15. Let's give you a look at the odds. This is the way the people here are playing it at Louisiana Downs, presented by Auto Tote. The morning line favorite and remaining the favorite, Burt Bacharach, sold to the matter 2-1. Concern is 3-2 now, has just become the favorite. Kendali was scratched. Meadow Flight at 4-1. My Magical Star scratch. Kelly's Tartan at 50. Ocean Crest getting support at 7-2. And Bay Street Star at 8-1. So Concern has overtaken now Soul of the Matter as the favorite here for Super Derby 15. Let's go upstairs now to Dave Johnson.
You know, lessons learned early in life stay with you for a very long time. And there's one California veterinarian who has fashioned a second career with this innovative concept. Dr. Robert Miller has been working with newborn equine foals for 28 years, beginning in the first moments of life.
In this species, in horses, the critical learning times are all in the first few days of life. And it's during the first hour or two, they're actually capable of absorbing more information permanently than any other time in life.
And that is precisely the time for Dr. Miller's routine to begin.
First of all, I desensitize them to frightening stimuli. That is, to electric clippers, to loud noises, to flags, to plastic. Teach them to handle their feet. Only takes about a minute per foot to teach them. Prepare them for shoeing later in life by rubbing the legs and tapping on the feet. I desensitize them to medical procedures like insertions of stomach tubes up the nose or dental instruments in their mouth or taking the temperature and that sort of thing. And among the things I do is I will turn the nose towards the withers and hold it in place there until the foal submits and keeps its head in that position even when I let go. Having taught that, I can come in the next day when it's on its feet and halter break it, teach it to lead in just a few minutes because it has already learned to yield.
Perseverance on the part of the teacher is of vital importance to this budding relationship, as is the bond formed between horse and human.
If we interject ourselves during this imprinting period, the foal will also lock on to humans, and it will have a completely different attitude for the rest of its life towards human beings.
Mark Cardiel, manager of California's Malibu Valley Farms, is a believer in Dr. Miller's methods, but generally, acceptance in the thoroughbred community has been slow. However, an instructional video and a detailed book on the subject have caused greater awareness as well as increased demand for imprint training's most recognized authority.
All I've done is give it a name, explain scientifically why it works, and that's because we're in those critical learning times. And I'm doing everything I can to popularize it. And after a 28-year struggle, it looks like we're in the home stretch.
This educational feature is brought to you by the American Association of Equine Practitioners through a grant from Merck & Company, manufacturers of Ekvaland, a broad-spectrum dewormer available from your veterinarian.
And the video on handling these foals, this unique method, is available through the American Association of Equine Practitioners. The Super Derby, race 7. We're expecting the horses in the paddock at any moment. Stay with us here from Louisiana Downs. Here they come, the Super Derby stars. The grandstand at the Edward DeBartholo track here, Louisiana Downs in Bossier City, Louisiana. Our Racing to the Breeders' Cup site here. Looking ahead to Tuesday, a little doubleheader racing for you folks. Saga of John Henry, a half-hour special at 3 o'clock Eastern Tuesday, followed by your regular visit, the Daily Racing Form Racehorse Digest, recapping all the horse racing action, harness, quarter horse, and thoroughbred. Part of our Super Derby telecast, we'd also hope to bring you coverage of the Maryland Million Sprint. It's Maryland Million Day at Laurel Race Course, that 12-race series worth $1 million that our friend Jim McKay began back in 1986. But right now, the signal's somewhere up there. We don't know where it is. We can't find it. If we get it, we'll try to get it on before the end of the show. If not, we'll catch it on the Racehorse Digest. Now let's turn our attention to Super Derby 15. Burt Bacharach, the Oscar Award-winning composer, songwriter, has Soul of the Matter. And there is Burt in the blue blazer there. He doesn't mind Louisiana heat. Watching his stable star, Soul of the Matter, being saddled up by Dick Mandela, the trainer. Now, Soul of the Matter was a very respectable fifth in this year's Kentucky Derby. Then, because of foot problems, was not raced until the first part of September. He made a very impressive return to the races, though, at Del Mar. We asked Dick Mandela about that.
He got a good race out of it. He was off the pace, tried to make a run going into the 3/8 pole. He kind of got boxed in and nowhere to go for 1/8 of a mile and had to back up and swing out when they turned for home and ran by him pretty easy. Anybody saw it was pretty impressed. Looked like a class horse that I've always thought he is. And he's come back from that and he worked 1:37 the other day. So I think he's as good as he can get right now.
There again, Dick Mandela taking care of the tack on the Soul of the Matter. Another one getting a lot of attention to Dick. Third choice right now at 3-1, the 4-horse Meadow Flight.
And you know, Chris, Meadow Flight has only run one bad race this year. That was the Kentucky Derby, where he was 11th. And he's taking the same route that Walenda did to the winner's circle here in the Super Derby. He won the Pennsylvania Derby in big style last out. The question, though, is whether he can handle the 1.25 miles. But this horse, Meadow Flight, does have credentials, and we asked his trainer, Jim Ryerson, which is his best race yet.
I think the Haskell, and where we knew Holy Bull didn't have any speed to contend with and had everything his own way. So we tried to make a run at him in a turn. And really, this horse was real game in that he, fought all the way to the wire and didn't, back up to Holy Bull that day, because he had to move a little early because there was no speed, yet he was still able to hold off a good horse like Concern that day. So that probably was his best race.
We're taking a look at Meadow Flight now, again trained by Jim Ryerson, ridden by Joe Bravo this afternoon. Well, Charles C. Frankie Brothers comes back in Louisiana Downs. This man owns more stakes wins than any trainer in history at this track. He brings with him the 7-horse Ocean Crest. Now, how might he figure in the race strategy this afternoon?
Well, if pace makes the race, then we might can expect to see Ocean Crest on the lead, because there's virtually no early speed in this race. There you see him being saddled with the trademark white bridle that Frankie Brothers has been putting on all his horses. This colt has run well not only on the turf and the dirt, but he runs pretty interchangeably on the lead and from off the pace. And this kind of versatility, Frankie Brothers feels, is a big asset today.
Well, he's been a pretty versatile horse. If you look at his form, he's got tactical speed. He lays up close. The race before the Del Mar Derby, he was 7 or 8 lengths off the pace and was happy to be there, made a nice run. So he's one of those fortunate horses. I think you can place him anywhere. It looks like the top contenders in this race that I think are the come-from-behind horses, and are surely the 1.25 mile horses. And you'll have some pace, and I would think he would be forwardly placed.
Well, we can expect to see him very close to the lead. You might also expect a little speed from Bay Street Star, but remember, only Island World has been wire-to-wire winner of the Super Derby.
Well, Charles C., picking up a story of the Super Derby, it is their biggest day at Louisiana Downs, but there haven't been a lot of big days here recently. There has not been a lot of joy in River City here for thoroughbred racing ever since the 3 casino riverboats, full casinos you might add, opened up this spring here on the Red River between Shreveport and Bossier City. Since that time, well, the handle has dropped 29% here at Louisiana Downs, the attendance off 17% on track. But the Downs, under General Manager Ray Tromba, is fighting back.
The numbers have been down this year, and of course we've learned a lot by what's happened in this market. 3 riverboat casinos about 6 miles away from the racetrack have had an impact on our numbers, but we've learned a lot by it, and we really believe it is the way of the future. And there are things that we're going to do next year that will help a situation.
Louisiana Downs quickly learned reality, and in fact has half ownership in the riverboat casino, the Isle of Capri. We asked Ray if he felt he was competing against himself.
It does, but we don't. We feel real good about the relationship with Casino America and the Isle of Capri. We've done a lot of things this year, from cross-marketing the product that has exposed us to players that never would have happened before. Certainly we're learning from the experience, and we're trying to find our niche.
An example of turning a negative into a positive was when video poker arrived in Louisiana 2 years ago.
Video poker began July 1, 1992, and to date has actually supplemented purses $3.1 million. And of course, that $3.1 million, a lot of that is newly founded money.
The Downs is fighting back with an aggressive simulcasting schedule that is up 26% nationwide, helping keep its purses at $130,000 a day. But what about the future of coexisting and competing with other forms of gambling?
And we're in the business of thoroughbred racing right now here at Louisiana Downs. It's just that our market has changed, and we have to offer different things to stay viable, and that's our charge.
They can't do it alone, though. Louisiana Downs will need the horsemen's support. They'll need some legislative help and the leadership of the Department of Cooperation to keep Louisiana Downs the viable track it is. Louisiana Downs, site of Super Derby 15, are racing to the Breeders' Cup stop here on ESPN. And Charles C. Kennedy joins me now. The horses have been tacked up. They have left the saddling paddock area, headed to the walking ring right behind us. Riders have also arrived. But Charles, as you look at this field of 6, could there be a Breeders' Cup horse in here? Well, this race, history-wise, says there could be.
And even though the Super Derby, the inaugural Super Derby, preceded the Breeders' Cup by several years, the ties between the two were immediately apparent, and it was all the more reason to ship a good 3-year-old to Bossier City. Trainer Charlie Whittingham brought Sunday Silence to the Super Derby in 1989. He was looking to regain the form his colt had shown in winning the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. His performance that day would show that he was definitely back on track.
And down the stretch they come, and Sunday Silence roars out, leaving the field behind with a 16th of a mile to go. He's in front by 9. Through the stretch, it's all Sunday Silence, and he takes Super Derby 10 by 7 lengths.
The Winner's Circle celebration at Louisiana Downs would be followed by another a few weeks later as Sunday Silence held off his old rival Easy Goer in a thrilling finish to the Breeders' Cup Classic. The victory made him the only horse to complete the Kentucky Derby, Super Derby, Breeders' Cup Classic triple in the same year.
The Breeders' Cup Championship Series, Chelsea, began in 1984. You can really see the effect, though, this race has had the last 4 years on that graphic.
And in 2 of those years, when Ali Sheba and Seeking the Gold were second in the Breeders' Cup Classic, Ali Sheba got beat a nose, Seeking the Gold only a half a length.
So it really has been a major prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic. Here is the 2-horse concern that is now the race favorite here at Louisiana Downs. And Charles, he really fits the well-traveled theme we had at the start of this.
Well, he might be the smallest horse in the field. He's not a big, robust fellow, but he's got to be the toughest. He's been all over the country, and he's never missed a beat all year, but he looks good.
Came in late, flew in from his Maryland base of Dickie Small Stable to Dallas, then was vanned down here to Louisiana Downs, and now ready to take on the field here and hopefully back to the Winner's Circle for the first time since he ran at Oaklawn and won the Arkansas Derby. And there you see the 6 as they get ready for our post-parade. Once again, what's at stake? $750,000, making this the richest 3-year-old race of the fall. $450,000 is the first place check. 15th running of the Super Derby. It is the premier event here of Louisiana Downs, and let's introduce you to the 1994 field. We start, note the musical note there on the silks of Burt Bacharach, the 3-time Oscar-winning composer, songwriter. This is his stable star. Today's early morning line favorite won the Grade 2 San Felipe in March. Soul of the Matter, 5th in the Kentucky Derby, coming off foot problems, won his race back in September. Kent DeSormo, the 24-year-old Californian, Louisiana native, is the rider. The 2-horse is Concern, the race favorite now, the late-running winner of the Arkansas Derby, then beaten in neck by Holy Bull in the Travers, and just ran 3rd in the Molson Million, but he's never been worse than 3rd in 12 starts this year for trainer Dick Small. Jerry Bailey has only ridden in 1 Super Derby, but he won it 1990 with Home at Last. We scratched the 3, Candali, moving us to the 4, Meadow Flight. Now, this was a $26,000
Keeneland sale purchase. He's returned to his owners already almost $500,000. The Pennsylvania Derby winner after a second to Holy Bull in the Haskell. He's been first or second in all 4 races since his 11th in the Kentucky Derby. The rider, Joe Bravo, he's the leading rider at the Meadowlands Inn for his first Super Derby. The 5-horse My Magical Star has been scratched. The 6th local entry, Kelly's Tartan. A $15,000 claim here in May. Only stakes effort was the second in Bossier City. Eddie Perrodin Jr., the rider, veteran Louisiana rider, 11th in the current standings. The 7-horse, $20,000 supplement to this race, Ocean Crest, the familiar Silks of Lazy Lane farmer Joe Albritton, trained by Frankie Brothers. Ocean Crest has done his best running on the turf. Lafitte Pinkai is the rider, the Hall of Famer, who's won the Super Derby 3 times. Rounding out our field, the 8-horse, the Hall of Fame rider, Pat Day on Bay Street Star. This colt has been in the money in 7 of 10 starts this year. Biggest win, the Grade 2 Cullen at Belmont in the spring, was 8th in his last start in the Jerome. Billy Mott trains Pat Day, who won the Super Derby in 1988 on Seeking the Gold, has the assignment this afternoon. Pat Day, by the way, won the River City Budweiser Breeders' Cup on Skimble for his 3rd straight win, Skimble, in that race. That was yesterday. Now, speaking of yesterday as well, Larry Schneider's about to call it quits in this great game. Larry Schneider, a rider here at Louisiana Downs for so many years, one of the top jockeys in this sport. The 52-year-old Schneider, ridden in over 35,000 races, and this is his 35th season, dominated here at Louisiana Downs with 6 straight titles in the 80s. Larry's best year had to be 1989. He won his 6,000th race. Only 7 jocks have done that. That same year, he won his biggest race, the Arkansas Derby on Dancel. And he received the prestigious George Wolfe Award. Larry Schneider heads to his 2nd career now. He'll be a steward at Oaklawn and Hot Springs. We wish him the best of luck. Larry, thanks for the memory. A warm, humid afternoon this October 1st. A fast track, 3 minutes to post to the Super Derby. Let's check the odds here at Louisiana Downs, presented again by Auto Tote. Here's the rundown. Sold to the Meadow. The morning line favorite is now at 2, as is Concern at 2, but Concern has the dollars on his side. Candali was scratched. Meadow Flight at 5-2, getting strong support. My Magical Star scratch. Kelly's Tartan a big price. Ocean Crest at 4. Bay Street Star at 8. A small field. Dave Johnson can see if he can find some value for us with the Budweiser long shot for the Super Derby.
Budweiser long shot is the product of the respect we have for early speed and the jockey who controls it. The man is Lafitte Pinkai Jr. The horse is number 7, Ocean Crest. Pinkai has won the Super Derby an amazing 3 times, and with Ocean Crest seeks a record 4th win. This son of Stormbird out of a Seattle slew mare should have no problem with the distance. Frankie Brothers, his trainer, knows how to get a runner ready. Can he improve enough to win the Super Derby? We hope so, because he's today's Budweiser long shot.
Super Derby 15. Just a couple minutes away from running here at Louisiana Downs. When we come back, we'll be racing for $750,000. Super Derby 15 is being presented by Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet. While the latest change in the totalizer board shows that Soul to the Matter has become our race favorite here at 9-5. Charles C. Concern, the second choice at 2-1.
Well, obviously the public likes the chances of Concern because of the 1.25 miles. And when we talked to Jerry Bailey earlier, he didn't have much concern about Concern and the lack of early pace because of the distance too.
Well, there's 2 factors today at Louisiana Downs. It's an extra 1/8 of a mile. It's a 1.25 miles today, which I think is very important for Concern. And another thing is the surface. He didn't handle the surface at Woodbine very well, as a lot of other horses didn't. They finished up the track. At least he had enough courage to still finish 3rd, so I was optimistic about that.
Let's set the mark here. The stakes and track record, one and the same for 1.25 miles and for the Super Derby Louisiana Downs. Jack Van Berg's great Gate Dancer in 1984. Remember when he outran Precisionist there? 2 minutes, 1/5 second. They're loading up for Super Derby 15. We'll go to the top of the stands and to call the Super Derby, Dave Johnson.
And there is Pat Day aboard Bay Street Star. The last horse to move in. They're off, and Bay Street Star was off a step slowly. It's Ocean Crest with Pinkai as expected, taking the early lead. Along the inside, that's Soul of the Matter. Middle of the racetrack now, Pat Day has Bay Street Star in gear again, and Bay Street Star up to take command. The Bud Longshot, Ocean Crest, is back into second, and Soul of the Matter on the inside moves up. It's a slow pace so far as they pass us for the first time. Bay Street Star on the outside in the red and white colors. Soul of the Matter moves through at the rail into the second spot, and Ocean Crest just behind the 2 leaders in third. Gap of 2 and away from the rail, it's Meadow Flight in the blue and white colors with Joe Bravo racing in fourth. Then a gap of 2 lengths, and Kelly's Tartan is second last, and as expected, Concern with Jerry Bailey is at the back of the pack, 10.5 lengths from the leader, and the leader is Bay Street Star, and it was a very slow half of 49 seconds. They are walking down the back stretch, and Bay Street Star leads it. Now Pink Eye has Ocean Crest back into the second spot. Along the inside to Sormo in third position with Soul of the Matter. Then 2 back, and it's Meadow Flight on the outside racing in fourth position. It's a gap of 4 back to Kelly's Tartan, and Concern has not yet started his late run. They go to the far turn, still slow. 3/4 in 1:14. They're crawling around the far turn. Now the pace quickens a bit. Bay Street Star has the lead. Here comes Ocean Crest. Here comes Soul of the Matter in the light blue colors on the outside. We got a horse race, and Soul of the Matter on the outside grabs the lead. The Bud Longshot, Ocean Crest, is right there toward the inside, and Bay Street Star drops back. They're at the top of the lane. Soul of the Matter leads it by 3/4 of a length. On the inside, it's Ocean Crest, but here comes Concern, gobbling up ground with every stride, and down the stretch they come. Soul of the Matter digging in with Kent DeSormo. Concern on the outside, not fast enough. Jerry Bailey aboard the second-place finisher. Soul of the Matter is back. Chris?
The one-horse Soul of the Matter, the Silks of Burt Bacharach, the musical note, and it sounds sweet here in Louisiana. Remember, he was 5th in the Kentucky Derby, unraced until the 1st of September. Dick Mandela taking a lot of time with him. That's typical Dick Mandela's training techniques. Got his feet back in shape, turned him out of Del Mar in the allowance race, and he wins it there. Let's take another look, Chelsea, as Soul of the Matter holds off Concern.
Well, the early fractions, obviously, as Dave said, were very slow. The first 1/4 of a mile was the slowest in Super Derby history. Soul of the Matter wasn't too far off, but he bided his time, made his move around the turn, and draws away here, going very easily. For once, he didn't get in trouble. He and Kent DeSormo have been in more trouble every time they've run, but his 4-month vacation since the Kentucky Derby has done him well. He looks well physically, and he's going to look just fine in the win picture.
Soul of the Matter is by private terms out of the TV commercial mare Soul Light, and was bred in West Virginia. There he is, the unofficial winner of Super Derby 15, Burt Bacharach's Soul of the Matter at the wire. The Grade 1 Super Derby has been presented by Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet. It seemed like a sure bet in this race. The fans had it figured here, 1-2. That's how they went off. That's how they finished. Soul of the Matter, the unofficial winner of Super Derby 15, followed by Concern, and then Bay Street Star. And I know they got to be happy in West Virginia. Vinnie Mascarelli at Country Roads Farm. That's where Soul of the Matter was bred. Let's go to Dave Johnson now for a closer look at how Soul of the Matter did it.
Down the backstretch, the interesting thing was that Concern was closer than usual because of this dawdling pace. He's at the back of the pack on the extreme right of your screen, and there's where he starts his run. And they went through a yawning 1/4 in 24-2, a dawdling half-mile in 49, and a sleepwalking 1:14. Now, here's where the pace quickens, and here's where the real racing begins, as Soul of the Matter takes the outside route to the front. On the inside, in the red colors, Bay Street Star, who had set those easy fractions, drops out of it. The Bud Longshot, Ocean Crest at the rail, is going to give way as Concern on the outside with the swishing tail, and Jerry Bailey aboard is moving quickly through the real estate, but it's Soul of the Matter with those good feet and a beautiful training job by a man who knows how to take care of champions. Soul of the Matter, Concern a bit short again, losing by a long neck or a half length, and there's Kent DeSormo and Dick Mandela and Burt Bacharach. Soul of the Matter. Maybe he'll finish that song. He says it's going to be the title of one now that he's won the Super Derby.
I think he may be humming some kind of song with a Kentucky tune, too, Dave. We saw Burt as he was going through the paddock here. He said if Soul of the Matter runs well today in the Super Derby, he'd like to think of Breeders' Cup Championship Day at Louisville.
It's racing to the Breeders' Cup, presented by Thrifty Car Rental. And from Louisiana Downs, the Super Derby is now official. Soul of the Matter pays $580, $360 and $260. Concern $320, $240. Bay Street Star was third, paying $3. The Exacta, a 1-2 combination here at the track, $19.40. The time is slow, 2 minutes 3 2/5 seconds, but they still pay off on those tickets. And from top to bottom, it was Soul of the Matter, Concern, Bay Street Star, Ocean Crest, or Bud Longshot finished fourth. Meadow Flight was fifth, and Kelly Starton was sixth. Chris?
Chelsea Candy has our winners for us now. At the winner's circle, Soul of the Matter, and a happy group with Chelsea Candy.
Well, wouldn't you be? I've got Janie and Bert Backrack here with me, the owners of Soul of the Matter, Dick Mandela, who did such a great job of training this colt back up to after a 4-month vacation, and Kent DeSormo, who did a pretty good job of riding today. And Bert, first of all,
they did great.
Congratulations. I heard you said you were going to cancel your tour if you won today. Is that
true?
I'm
supposed to start concerts on Tuesday and then Wednesday, and now they're canceled.
Well, enjoy this. This was a tremendous effort. Dick, the first quarter was the slowest in Super Derby history. The last quarter, Kent, did you know, was the fastest in Super Derby history. So although the final time wasn't awesome, it's been a slow track, and this is good.
Yeah, when they left the gate, it was obvious nobody wanted the lead, and Kent was smart enough not to take too far back with our horse, which had been his style. But he just sat quiet enough on him not to discourage him, and Bert didn't mention it, but he's canceling his tour, but I'm taking over. I'm going to do the next 3.
Can you sing?
No, we got 10 minutes of comedy.
We're going to take a look at Kent's winning move right now, so you all can relive this. There you are on third on the outside, and you were moving to the win.
Well, the most exciting thing about right about in here is the antennas goes up, which are his ears. And I knew then and there that I still had pretty much horse. When I called on him, he kicked forward, and I was just smiling from here home. He's a lengthy colt. He takes a big stride, and he covers a lot of ground. I was even surprised. Concern showed a lot of heart to catch up to him because my colt was really reaching forward, and he was trying hard.
It was a tough spot for a Concern because there was no pace. He comes closing. But what I got to find out now is what about the Breeders' Cup? You too.
Pretty good subject right now. As long as he comes out well and is healthy, we'll sure plan to do that.
Well, it was a tremendous closing effort. Good luck at the Breeders' Cup if you go, and we'll go back to Chris.
And thinking of the Breeders' Cup, Caesar's Palace, of course, with that future book open for the Breeders' Cup. John Vidmar at their Sport and Race book told us about how the line moves in the future book.
When we first opened the future book, the highest prices are available and possibly the best value. If a line is not in direct relation to what a customer feels at that time, they will certainly let us know. As the various stakes races run, horses emerge and show what they can do. The prices are fluctuated both right after the stakes races have been run or right before, and we're constantly moving the lines up and down like a tote board to attract interest in the various horses.
See some of the top prices there led by Devil Is Due. Here are some others. Colonial Affair running next week in the Breeders' Cup preview day. And look at those two in the bottom there in the European races. Well, we promised the Maryland Million Sprint if we could find it in the heavens. Well, by gosh, we found it in the heavens. Let's listen to Dave Rodman's call now, the Maryland Million Sprint from Laurel.
38 Carat together as they swing for home. Who Wouldn't is third. Renaldin on the inside. Then Foxy G. Golden 10 is next. Punchlines in between horses. Prenup accelerates away, however. And Prenup comes to the final furlong, pursued by Who Wouldn't. Golden 10 on the outside trying to get up third. Prenup to the final 16th of a mile. And it is another score for Prenup. Convincing 1-2 at that. Wins by a length. Who Wouldn't second. Golden 10 third. 109.
Prenup wins a train by Mark Hennig. His fourth win in a row in the Maryland Sprint. Next for us on the race to the Breeders' Cup Series, Santa Anita Oak Tree Invitational next Sunday. And next on ESPN, Senior PGA Golf, the Vantage Championship, the richest event on the Seniors Tour. That's coming up next from North Carolina on ESPN. Racing to the Breeders' Cup, presented by Thrifty Car Rental. Our coverage of Super Derby 15 has been brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you friends know when to say when. By Keeneland, source of the classic horse. Thrifty Car Rental, historically known for low rates. By the Thoroughbred Racing Association, assuring the highest racing standards. And by the DeBartolo Corporation, leading the way to the 21st century, our host today. Ground transportation provided by Thrifty Car Rental. For reservations at over 850 locations worldwide, call Thrifty at 1-800-4CARS. This has been an ESPN.